ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਵਰਲਡ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਰਾਜਵਿੰਦਰ ਕੌਰ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ। ਖਬਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਮਾਰ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸੁਰਖੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਵੱਲ। ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਹਿੱਸਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਇਆ ਬੈਕ ਟੂ ਸਕੂਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ। ਮਹਾਮਾਰੀ ਕਾਰਨ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਇਸ ਵਾਰ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ ਤੀਜਾ ਸਕੂਲ ਵਰ੍ਹਾ। ਨੋਵਾ ਸਕੋਸ਼ੀਆ 'ਚ 23 ਸਾਲਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਲੜਕੇ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਤੋਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਭਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੋਸ। ਜਾਂਚਕਾਰਾਂ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਮੌਤ ਕੁਦਰਤੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਤਲ। ਪੰਜ ਮੁੱਖ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਪਾਰਟੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਆ ਹਿੱਸਾ। ਡਿਬੇਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਠਾਏ ਗਏ ਅਹਿਮ ਮੁੱਦੇ। ਅਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਵਿਸਥਾਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਦੀ ਚੌਥੀ ਵੇਵ ਦਰਮਿਆਨ ਓਨਟਾਰੀਓ ਦੇ ਕਈ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਬੋਰਡਸ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਕੁਝ ਦੇ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਲਾਸਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਰਤਣਾ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ। ਕਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਬੋਰਡਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਸ ਹਫ਼ਤੇ ਦੇ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਵਰ੍ਹੇ ਦੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂਆਤ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਅੱਜ ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ, ਪੀਲ, ਯਾਰਕ ਅਤੇ ਦਰਹਾਮ ਦੇ ਕਈ ਬੋਰਡਸ ਦੇ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਲਈ ਸਕੂਲ ਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਦਿਨ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ। ਮਹਾਮਾਰੀ ਕਾਰਨ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲਾ ਹੈ ਤੀਜਾ ਸਕੂਲ ਵਰ੍ਹਾ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ।
I'm happy that I'm going back to school so I can see all my friends again.
And you?
I'm happy so I can actually get to learn this time and not miss half of the school year.
And for you?
I'm happy to come back to school because I want to do my homework and try my best.
The city's health officials are recommending pausing extracurricular activities, field trips and mixed cohort high contact sports for September.
We're going to be looking at it throughout the month of September, and towards the end of September we'll be consulting with Toronto Public Health, and hopefully there can be some revisions made, but you know, health and safety is number one.
How do you feel about day one of school?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I like going to school every day. I like to go to Blackfoot because there's so many nice teachers.
What are you looking forward to most?
I don't know.
You don't know. How are you feeling?
Scared?
Why?
It's been a long time. Maybe.
Back and forth. They're like, we don't want to go back online. We want to be in school.
Probably by next week we're going to have that's almost 70%, a much higher rate, and then we'll work with the employees and all of the people who need to be vaccinated or to disclose it. Every board in the province supports this, and we've taken the initiative to write and ensure that the minister and the chief medical officer know that we support it as well.
For City News, I'm Faiza Amin.
ਵੀਕਐਂਡ ਉੱਤੇ 23 ਸਾਲਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਲੜਕੇ ਦੀ ਹੋਈ ਮੌਤ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ੱਕੀ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਨਾਲ ਸਿੱਖ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਫੀ ਰੋਸ ਪਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਜਾਂਚਕਾਰਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਮਾਮਲੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਤਲ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਪੁਲਿਸ ਅਧਿਕਾਰੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਪ੍ਰਭਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਕਟੜੀ 5 ਸਤੰਬਰ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਖਮੀ ਹਾਲਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਿਲਿਆ। ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਹਸਪਤਾਲ ਲਿਜਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਕਟੜੀ ਨੋਵਾ ਸਕੋਸ਼ੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਟੈਕਸੀ ਚਲਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਦਾ ਖਰਚਾ ਕੱਢ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ।
Something like this was never predicted or was something which you would never expect. He was, I think, the bread earner of the family, or one of the main bread earners of the family, and he was supposed to take care of his mother and sister.
We're working with the community to try to alleviate some of the fears, which are very real and understandable, and I sympathize with that. However, right at this point in our investigation, we're not prepared to speculate on motive.
ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦੇ ਸਿਹਤ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਐਡਰੀਅਨ ਡਿਕਸ ਨੇ ਡਾਸਨ ਕ੍ਰੀਕ ਅਤੇ ਆਲੇ-ਦੁਆਲੇ ਦੇ ਖੇਤਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਸਨੀਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਹਸਪਤਾਲ ਦੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਦੇਣ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਇੱਕ ਟੀਮ ਗਠਨ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਟੀਮ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਮਰੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਆਈਸੀਯੂ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਾਖਲਾ ਤੇ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਵੈਕਸੀਨ ਪ੍ਰਕਿਰਿਆ ਬਾਰੇ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਧਿਆਨ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਵੇਗਾ। ਇਸ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਕਾਰਡ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਰਜਿਸਟ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਲਾਂਚ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ।
Thank you very much. My name is Adrian Dix. I'm BC's Minister of Health, and I just wanted to, we received quite a few inquiries from the media and requests for interviews today, so I thought I'd make myself available to answer some of those questions. I did have a few things to say off the top, and firstly that I'm honoured to be here on the territories of the Musqueam, of the Squamish, of the Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, and honoured to be here on their lands. I want to start by saying we have received some inquiries about a person who passed away in the emergency room in Kamloops, and there is an automatic process of review in these circumstances, and we can't talk about individual cases, but we know the impact on the lives of obviously of everyone around that person and everyone who works in the ER, who works in a dedicated and diligent way every day. We know in these times, these are very challenging times at Royal Inland and everywhere else, and so we are thinking of that family today. Our hearts are with them. We know that hearts are broken when someone passes away under any circumstances, and so I wanted to start by making that point, because I know there's significant interest, and there'll be significant interest in Kamloops about that. I want to speak secondly, just to make a different sort of announcement. Today in Dawson Creek, the government is increasing its and continuing its significant investment in healthcare. People will know that Dawson Creek has been in need and been working to get a new hospital for decades, and that a number of years ago we approved a concept plan and a business plan, and now we are proceeding. And today we're announcing the selection. The preferred proponent has been selected for the design phase of the new Dawson Creek Hospital. It will be a standalone new hospital, and it demonstrates our government's commitment to Dawson Creek and to healthcare in the north. And that proponent, as a result of the evaluation process, there were 3 proponents shortlisted for the design early works agreement, and the winning proponent is Clark Builders Turner HDR Architecture was selected. And I just wanted to make that note. I know many people in the north, in particular in Dawson Creek.
ਪੰਜ ਮੁੱਖ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਪਾਰਟੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਦੀ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਬਹਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਲੈਣਾ ਪਿਆ। ਵੋਟਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਦਿਲ ਜਿੱਤਣ ਦਾ ਪਾਰਟੀਆਂ ਕੋਲ ਇਹ ਆਖਰੀ ਮੌਕਾ ਸੀ। ਇਸ ਬਹਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਉੱਠੇ ਗਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਫੋਰਡੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ, ਕਲਾਈਮੇਟ, ਕੋਵਿਡ ਰਿਕਵਰੀ, ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਤੇ ਜਵਾਬਦੇਹੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ-ਨਾਲ ਇੰਡੀਜੀਨਸ ਰਿਕਨਸੀਲੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਰਹੇ।
We recognize that there are systems and institutions that need to change across the country, and that's why from the very beginning we stepped up with policies, new policies, stronger policies and processes to support every survivor, everyone who comes forward, because nobody deserves to work in a workplace where they are being discriminated against, where they are being harassed or hassled. We have been unequivocal about that. My leadership has been unequivocal about that. Yes, these problems continue in workplaces across the country, particularly in the military. That's unacceptable, which is why we've taken even stronger measures. It's unsatisfactory to have to say we're relying on process in this. We want to just be able to have easy answers.
Ms. Paul, what's your response to that?
With easy answers. You have to fall back on process.
I have said before, and I'll say again tonight, that I do not believe that Mr. Trudeau is a real feminist. A feminist doesn't continue to push strong women out of his party when they are just seeking to serve. And I will say their names tonight and thank them. Thank you, Jane Philpott. Thank you, Jody Wilson-Raybould. Thank you, Selena Cesar-Chavez. And I'm here tonight thanks to the work that you have done. I believe that if there were more women on this platform tonight and in previous years, that we in fact would have better laws in our military. We would have childcare at this point. We would have many of the things that we need. I am the only woman other than Elizabeth May to be on this platform in the last 18 years. The Liberal Party has never had a woman lead it. I think it's time for the party to examine its priorities.
I think, Ms. Hall, you'll perhaps understand that I won't take lessons on caucus management from you.
And I think what I will keep focused on
is making sure that our first woman finance minister has moved forward.
ਮਹਾਮਾਰੀ ਕਾਲ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਲੌਂਗ ਟਰਮ ਕੇਅਰ ਸੈਂਟਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿਣ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਵਾਧਾ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ ਅਤੇ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਲੰਬੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਸਮੱਸਿਆਵਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਵਾਅਦੇ ਕੀਤੇ, ਪਰ ਪਿਛਲੇ 18 ਮਹੀਨਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ। ਸੀਨੀਅਰ ਵਕੀਲਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਦਲਿਆ।
My fear was that every time I stepped outside of my dad's room was what's happening to all the other residents. It feels more like a prison than a home.
The system failed the residents who died. The system failed the residents and employees who got infected.
We have actually been able to see the conditions that seniors are currently living in and have been living for the past decades.
Federal government does have power to look after the health of the nation. And so it could use those powers if it wanted to do that.
We're now starting to see the deaths mount again. And what it tells me is that when we haven't fundamentally fixed some of the issues, we're just going to keep seeing repeated issues of outbreaks. They started saying, let's do what we can to support people in their own homes for as long as possible, because that's often can be done at half the cost as what it would cost to care for somebody in a long-term care home.
This is still happening. There's still people crying out for help, and there's no one there to help.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ 20 ਸਤੰਬਰ ਨੂੰ 44ਵੀਆਂ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਚੋਣਾਂ ਹੋਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਇਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਸੀਬੀਸੀ ਦੇ ਵੋਟ ਕੰਪਾਸ ਆਨਲਾਈਨ ਸਰਵੇਖਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਭਾਗ ਲੈਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਲਗਭਗ 3 ਲੱਖ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਮੁਤਾਬਕ ਜਗਮੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਵਰਤਮਾਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਸਮਰਥ ਤੇ ਭਰੋਸੇਮੰਦ ਸੰਘੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੇਤਾ ਨੇ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਲੋਕਪ੍ਰਿਯਤਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਲਈ ਮਹੱਤਵਪੂਰਨ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਚੋਣਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿਰਫ 20% ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਸਮਰਥਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੀਜੇ ਸਥਾਨ ਤੇ ਨੇ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ 33.7% ਤੇ ਲਿਬਰਲ 31.2% ਨੇ, ਜੋ 20 ਸਤੰਬਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਚੋਣਾਂ ਤੱਕ ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕ ਹਫ਼ਤੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰੀਬੀ ਮੁਕਾਬਲੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੰਦ ਹੋਣ ਲਈ ਤਿਆਰ ਨੇ। ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਦੀਆਂ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਰਾਤ 9:11 ਤੇ ਲਈ ਨਿਰਧਾਰਿਤ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਦੀ ਬਹਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ 24 ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਸੀਟਾਂ ਜਿੱਤਣ ਲਈ ਇੱਕ ਹਮਲਾਵਰ ਦਬਾਅ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਸਹੁੰ ਖਾਧੀ ਹੈ। ਸਿੰਘ ਕੋਲ ਇਹ ਦਿਖਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਮਹੱਤਵਪੂਰਨ ਮੌਕਾ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਦੂਜੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਨੇਤਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਬਿਹਤਰ ਨੇ। ਬਾਈਡਨ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਸਨ ਨੇ ਟੈਕਸਾਸ ਤੇ ਮੁਕੱਦਮਾ ਚਲਾਇਆ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਰਾਜ ਵਿੱਚ ਗਰਭਪਾਤ ਤੇ ਲਗਭਗ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪਾਬੰਦੀ ਲਗਾਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਨੂੰ ਲਾਗੂ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਰੋਕਣ ਦੀ ਮੰਗ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੇਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਡਰ ਹੈ ਕਿ 50 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸਥਾਪਿਤ ਗਰਭਪਾਤ ਦੇ ਅਧਿਕਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਰਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਜੋ ਬਾਈਡਨ ਨੇ ਚੇਤਾਵਨੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਗੈਰ ਸੰਵਿਧਾਨਿਕ ਹਫੜਾ ਦਫੜੀ ਪੈਦਾ ਕਰੇਗਾ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿਰੁੱਧ ਸਿਵਲ ਮੁਕੱਦਮੇ ਦਰਜ ਕਰਕੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਵੇਟ ਨਾਗਰਿਕਾਂ ਤੇ ਨਿਰਭਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ 6 ਹਫ਼ਤਿਆਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਗਰਭਪਾਤ ਕਰਾਉਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ।
Last week, after the Supreme Court allowed Texas Senate Bill 8 to take effect, I said that the Justice Department was evaluating all options to protect the constitutional rights of women and other persons. Today, after a careful assessment of the facts and the law, the Justice Department has filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas. Our position is set out in detail in our complaint. Its basis is as follows. SB 8 bans nearly all abortions in the state after 6 weeks of pregnancy, before many women even know they are pregnant, and months before a pregnancy is viable. It does so even in cases of rape, sexual abuse, or incest. And it further prohibits any effort to aid the doctors who provide pre-viability abortions or the women who seek them. The act is clearly unconstitutional under long-standing Supreme Court precedent. Those precedents hold, in the words of Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that, quote, regardless of whether exceptions are made for particular circumstances, a state may not prohibit any woman from making the ultimate decision to terminate her pregnancy before viability. Texas does not dispute that its statute violates Supreme Court precedent. Instead, the statute includes an unprecedented scheme to, in the Chief Justice's words, quote, insulate the state from responsibility, close quote. It does not rely on the state's executive branch to enforce the law, as is the norm in Texas and everywhere else. Rather, the statute deputizes all private citizens without any showing of personal connection or injury to serve as bounty hunters, authorized to recover at least $10,000 per claim from individuals who facilitate a woman's exercise of her constitutional rights. The obvious and expressly acknowledged intention of this statutory scheme is to prevent women from exercising their constitutional rights by thwarting judicial review for as long as possible. Thus far, the law has had its intended effect. Because the statute makes it too risky for an abortion clinic to stay open, abortion providers have ceased providing services. This leaves women in Texas unable to exercise their constitutional rights and unable to obtain judicial review at the very moment they need it. This kind of scheme to nullify the Constitution of the United States is one that all Americans, whatever their politics or party, should fear. If it prevails, it may become a model for action in other areas, by other states, and with respect to other constitutional rights and judicial precedents. Nor need one think long or hard to realize the damage that would be done to our society if states were allowed to implement laws that empower any private individual to infringe on another's constitutionally protected rights in this way. The United States has the authority and the responsibility to ensure that no state can deprive individuals of their constitutional rights through a legislative scheme specifically designed to prevent the vindication of those rights. The United States also brings this suit to assert other federal interests that SB 8 unconstitutionally impairs. Among other things, SB 8 conflicts with federal law by prohibiting federal agencies from exercising their authorities and carrying out their responsibilities under federal laws relating to abortion services. It also subjects federal employees and non-governmental partners who implement those laws to civil liability and penalties. Among the federal agencies and programs whose operations the statute unconstitutionally restricts are the Labor Department's Job Corps program, the Defense Department's TRICARE Health program, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, the Bureau of Prisons, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and the Office of Personnel Management. The complaint therefore seeks a declaratory judgment that SB 8 is invalid under the Supremacy Clause and the 14th Amendment, is preempted by federal law, and violates the doctrine of intergovernmental immunity. The United States also seeks a permanent and preliminary injunction prohibiting enforcement of the statute against the state of Texas, including against the state's officers, employees and agents, and private parties it has effectively deputized who would bring suit under SB 8. The Department of Justice has a duty to defend the Constitution of the United States and to uphold the rule of law. Today, we fulfill that duty by filing the lawsuit I have just described.
इस बार संघी चोन विच एडमिंटन की जेकर गल करिए तां इत्थे भी मुकाबला काफी सख्त हो चुके हैं। एडमिंटन ग्रिसबाक विच एनडीपी के उम्मीदवार मैटिस ब्लेक दे नाल गलबात की गई। दरअसल वो कंपेन लई घर घर जाके वोटरां नाल उन्हां दे महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दिआं बारे गल कर रहे ने ताकि जित हासिल की जा सके।
This way, and meet voters park here at 77.
I'd say poverty. It's, we're at the doors all the time, over 10 hours a day, every single day for months now, and we've heard from countless amount of people, whether it's single parents who are just trying to get by, trying to put food on the table and not sure how they're going to pay rent because the rent keeps going up, or maybe it's folks who are just trying to get into social housing. They're talking about wait lists as long as years, 5, 8 years long. Social housing is something that is critical to ending poverty. So I believe that that is one of the major steps to actually making sure poverty is reduced in a fast and effective way, but making sure there's actually houses for families. Here in Edmonton-Griesbach, building social housing units that are going to put folks who are houseless into homes fast and immediately. There's been a significant amount of court battles recently with the Ministry of Justice defending on behalf of the Government of Canada that include things like children looking for relief from the federal government for their experiences in existing foster care homes or within the Child and Family Services. We see elders of residential schools being fought in court right now for compensation. And so not much has changed.
You must be Rebecca?
Yes.
Thanks so much for meeting with us today.
My biggest concern right now is with the student debt, because the way interest is going to work is we're not going to be able to afford anything in our future because we'll be too busy paying off all the debt. And the increase is just really worrying for us.
I really like Jagmeet Singh. Yes. I really do.
Yeah.
And I'm impressed with what I've read so far of your platform. So that was thus why we decided to put up a sign. And then I noticed since we put up ours, somebody down there put up one too.
Oh, you're spreading the mood. You're doing it. It's working. Yeah, an orange wave's happening.
फिलहाल वर्ल्ड न्यूज़ विच बस इना ही। मैनू दियो इजाजत। धन्यवाद।